Military spouse business owners, this one is for you. If you've ever tried to keep your business running while your entire life is packed into boxes during a PCS, then you will know that it's not easy. Today, I'm going to share what it really looks like to PCS or move in any respect with an online business as a military spouse. Yes, having an online business makes it incredibly portable, which is a huge, huge asset as someone who has to relocate frequently, but that does not by any means make it easy. From disruptive routines and lost childcare to trying to continue to stay visible while also figuring out where the heck your new grocery store is, it can be a lot. So today I'm giving you a real behind-the-scenes look at our most recent move and how I'm learning to show up with grace when my life feels chaotic. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of two, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. All right, so today we're going to talk military spouse life, which is something I mentioned kind of casually on the podcast, but I don't talk about a ton. So I'm excited to kind of share a little behind the scenes of that part of my life and how it affects my business, because it for sure affects my business. So a PCS is a permanent change of station. If you have ever had any exposure to the military, you will know that there are just acronyms everywhere, and it makes things confusing. Permanent change of station basically means a permanent move. It's when the military moves you from one base to another base. Could be like an hour away, could be across the country, could be in some other part of the world. And I want to first and foremost say that the biggest blessing to me, besides being able to be home with my kids and have control over my time and my income and whatever, with owning my own business has been that it's so flexible and it fits so well into military life. I'm well aware of the fact that unemployment is a huge, huge, huge issue for military spouses, and it can be really difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to find a job at each new base, especially if you're in like a specialized field or something that requires state licensure or whatever. It is really hard on a lot of military spouses, and I am so, so grateful that I have my online business that is technically portable and pretty easy to bring along with me wherever we go, so I'm not having to start from scratch every single time. That said, it does not make it easy by any means. So my family has been attached to the military for the last 3 years, since 2022. If you listen to episode 1, you'll know that my husband was in previously, got out for several years. That's when we met and got married. And then when we decided we were ready to start growing our family, made the choice that the best decision for us was for him to go back to active duty service. So in that time, since 2022, we have moved 3 times, which is kind of a lot. Most people, I would say, move anywhere from every 2 to like 4 or 5 or 6 years. So 3 moves in 3 years is a pretty high tempo. There are for sure people that move more often than us. So I'm not saying like we have it the worst out of anyone, but it's a lot. So we moved in 2022 when my husband first joined from our home in Idaho to Colorado. Then in 2024, we moved from Colorado back to Idaho, which was crazy that we got stationed at our home base. So that was cool. But it was another move. I was also pregnant during both of those. So that was like a whole added layer of stress and difficulty. And then recently, this past July, we moved from Idaho to California. So we've been here for about 3 months. I'm finally feeling settled and in a routine. My oldest child is in daycare, so that's a huge help. And I'm ready to kind of like pull back the curtain and share some behind the scenes of what exactly that looks like. Another thing to note is that there are 2 ways to move as a military member. You can either do what's called a DPM, a personally procured move, again, with the acronyms. That basically means that you move yourself. The other option is for the military to do it for you. So they will hire contracted movers. They will come, they'll pack up your house, they'll put it on the moving truck, they will bring it to your new house, they will unload and unpack it. And I don't want to say don't have to do anything because it's still a lot of work and it comes with its own issues, but you're not like doing the manual labor yourself. The trade-off is that when you do move yourself, the military then pays you what they would have paid the moving company. So a lot of people will opt for that for a myriad of reasons. They want to have more control over their move. They don't want somebody else like touching their stuff. That's part of my family's motivation. And they also like getting paid. And sometimes you can make some profit off of that even after paying for moving supplies and renting a truck and all that stuff. So all three times we have done it ourselves, which has definitely made it more work in a lot of ways. But that's also just something to note that not everyone does it that way. There are pros and cons to both. If you want to talk more about that, DM me on Instagram and we can. So today we're going to talk about what it actually looks like to move with a business and a family. This is specific to moving due to military service. However, if you have something in your life that causes you to move a lot and you're not attached to the military, probably a lot of good lessons for you in here also. So the biggest thing about moving is just the disruption to our routine. The first time we moved, it was just the disruption to my routine because we didn't have any kids yet. And that was difficult, but manageable. There was also a lot of like shiny newness with it being our first move and our first base. And like I got to decorate a new house and all that stuff was fun. But now that I have kids, the routine disruption is a whole nother level. So that's wild. The next hurdle in moving with the business is just the emotional and mental toll of losing your support system, right? So at our previous base back in Idaho, for one, we were like, quote, home. We don't have any family there, but we had lived there for like many years prior to joining the military. So we had a lot of friends and a pretty good support system. My daughter had a babysitter who she went to a couple times a week. We had like people we could call for help. Losing that was rough, both just like personally from like a community standpoint, but really also for my business because I all of a sudden had no dedicated work time because I had nobody to take my kids so that I could work. So that was rough. When we first got here, I was working a lot in the evenings after they went to bed, on weekends if like my husband could take them out of the house for a few hours, early mornings, but it's just a lot of juggling. And like I said, it's taken us 3 months to like get back into some sort of normal routine. I also think it's really difficult, or it has been really difficult for me to balance wanting to take some time to like to settle in, to get our house set up, to make sure everyone's doing well and feeling comfortable and all those things. And also not wanting to take a big break for my business. If you have been listening for a while, just came off of maternity leave in like February. So I was really only, quote, back to work for like less than 6 months before we moved. And I just like really was feeling like I was having some momentum and I didn't want to stop. But I also knew that I needed to take some time to like physically move, but also to just get my family settled in and figure out our new routine and make sure that everyone was adjusting well. So that was tough. And even though I didn't want to take a break, I was sort of forced to, right? Because I didn't have childcare. I didn't have all these resources. I didn't have like an office set up for a little while. So things just like got crazy and I had less capacity and less time. And I, of course, didn't shut my business down, but things changed a lot. So that's kind of like the hard part of moving with a business, right? There are a lot of things that you can do to prepare and not make it easy, but make it easier on yourself. First and foremost, start communicating with your clients early. So my husband got his orders that we were moving in November of 2024. There was some back and forth and like some significant changes in where we were moving to and what exactly the plan was. But regardless, we knew that we were moving that following summer, probably July-ish. So in, I would say probably January, I started telling any clients who I knew that their project was going to be still ongoing, or if they were like six-figure brand society members or coaching clients or whatever. If I knew I was going to be working with them leading up to our move and when we moved, I started talking to them about it probably January, February. Anyone whose project was going to wrap up before then, I didn't really mention it because it wasn't going to affect them. I started talking to him about it early and I just said, hey, so we're moving again this summer. I just want to give you as much runway as possible. Here's what we're going to do to continue supporting you. But I want you to have a heads up that that is going to affect my business in some way. I don't know how that's going to look. I will keep you as informed as I can leading up to everything. And we'll get back on track as quickly as possible once we get settled in our new location. The other thing is pre-scheduling as much like marketing stuff as you can. So I batched a ton of podcast episodes because I knew that once we got to our new house, I wasn't going to like have a recording space set up. I pre-scheduled out a bunch of social media, some emails, because like I said, I knew that I was not going to be able to spend the amount of time working that I wanted to, and I didn't want my marketing to stop, even though I was taking a little bit of a back seat. So that now, 3 months into our move, when I'm ready to come back to work, there's like some warm leads and some work for me to actually do. Number three, and this is all the time, not just when you're moving, but a huge for me has been just really, really leaning on my team. So I have a VA studio manager who kind of runs the business for me, and then a graphic designer who does a good chunk of our client work. And truthfully, they did 100% of everything for that like 2 weeks before and after our move. And that was such a blessing. If I did not have them, I don't know what I would have done. I guess I would have had to just like temporarily shut our doors, and that would have not been ideal. And to kind of piggyback on that, spend some time getting your SOPs nailed, because your team needs to be able to run your business as if you're not there. They're not going to be able to shoot you a text message while you're like in the middle of loading your moving truck and be like, hey, how do I actually do this thing again? That's not going to work. They need to have the resources to find those answers for themselves while you're like in the thick of moving. And then lastly, automate everything that you can, which again just saves everyone time, makes it so that you're not putting so much on those team members. If you're automating everything possible, then they're only doing the things that really do need to be done by a human, and that makes things smoother. And also, that's not just for moving, right? When you come back to work, or like you're more fully in it, like I am now, you still have all those automations set up and they're still saving everyone time. So that is like a long-term benefit as well. So those I would say are like the 5 things that you really should focus on as you're getting ready for a move. And like I said, like start thinking about this stuff early. As soon as you know that you're going to be moving, whether it's military related or not, start communicating with your clients, start figuring out what marketing you need to schedule, prep your team, automate stuff, get your SOPs nailed. And then when you are closer to your move, in the middle of all the moving chaos and stress, you will then not also be stressed by your business. And I think that is really the key. As military spouses, we are used to just getting bombarded with stressful situations from left and right, but there's a lot we can do to mitigate that. So we should do that to make things a little less difficult and miserable on ourselves and on our families. Like, I'm not the best mom or spouse I can be whenever I'm stressed out about business and moving in life and all the things. So whatever I can do to lessen that helps me know that I'm showing up for my people in the best way that I can. So now that we're on the other side of our third move, and I feel like I'm like getting the hang of this a little bit, I kind of want to talk about like the mental and emotional side of things, because we don't talk about that enough. So you will know if you've listened to the podcast at all, I am like an introvert through and through. I love staying home. I love being bored. I love a routine. Hate last minute plans. Like if you ask me, hey, do you want to go to a concert tonight? It is a hard no. I need a few days to prepare myself for that. And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that like having those last minute changes and like constant chaos is just like really overwhelming and mentally exhausting for me. And I was reminded again during this move of just how true that is. I think the stress of like not starting over, but kind of starting over in like all of the ways is just a lot mentally to handle, because you are finding new doctors for your kids, a new vet for your dog. Where's the gym? Where's the grocery store? My kids want to go to the park every day. Where's the good parks around town? What school are they going to go to? That I think is something that gets really like left to us as the spouses a lot, which is fine. That's part of our job, what we're here for. Like people will tell me, oh, but you signed up for it. Yeah, I did. I know. But it doesn't make it any easier. So that was really mentally exhausting. Now, today, 3 months later, I feel like I've got most of that stuff sorted out. But yeah, it's a lot. Like my son was like 2.5 weeks late on his 9-month baby checkup appointment because I just kept slipping my mind to find a doctor and get it scheduled. And that's fine. It's not the end of the world. But for somebody who needs to like do everything exactly the way I'm supposed to do it and on time and whatever, it felt like the end of the world whenever I realized, oh man, he turned 9 months 2 weeks ago and we haven't been to the doctor. I think I also felt a lot of like guilt or I should feelings about not being as present in my business as I would have liked. None of my clients ever made me feel that way. Like no one said, you're really dropping the ball, Morgan. But there was definitely times that I felt like I was, and I hate that. I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like I'm going above and beyond for everybody all the time. And as a military spouse in general, but especially during a move, that just isn't realistic. And you have to give yourself a lot of grace and also ask for a lot of grace from the people around you and support. And then I think lastly, I don't want to call it grief, but just sadness around like leaving a life that you've built. For me, this time that was especially difficult. I think our first PCS from Idaho to Colorado, I was just excited. I'd also been separated from my husband for like 6 months while he was in training, so I was excited to like be together again. I was pregnant. I wanted to like spend some of my pregnancy actually with him. So all of that was like new and exciting for me. And there wasn't a lot of sadness in like leaving our home. And then when we found out we were going from Colorado back to Idaho, likewise, I was also super excited. And just transparently, we did not love Colorado as much as I expected that we would. So we were kind of ready to go. And knowing that we were going home to like our house with our friends and our yard, and I was going to get to raise my daughter in my own house for a couple years was really exciting to me. So it was kind of the same thing. Like I was ready to get out of Colorado. I was super excited about where we were going, and I wasn't really that sad. When we left Idaho to come to California, I was really sad. First and foremost, we were supposed to be in Idaho for 2 years. Turned out that we were only going to be there for 1 year. So that was really unexpected. But also that was the first time that I like got to bring our youngest child home from the hospital to my house and just got to have like all of those comforts that I didn't realize I had really been missing. So leaving them was hard. We also transparently were pretty apprehensive about coming to California for lots of reasons, cost of living being probably the number one. But there was just a lot that I was like not so sure about. So I was more apprehensive than excited, I would say. And I knew what I was going to be missing from Idaho because I had left already. I knew I was going to miss having our friends just down the road and my coffee shop and like my gym that I loved and our mountain that we used to go play in the snow and go snowboarding and all of that stuff that I don't think I really appreciated the first time, but having left once and came back really like had more of a special place in my heart. So I overall always excited for the opportunities and like adventure that the military provides, but this time specifically, I was pretty bummed to be leaving. Like when I was driving out of town with my two kids and our dog in the back of my car, I shed a couple tears, which is not normal for me. So the point of all of this is really just to give you permission to like feel those feelings. You can be sad and excited. You can be overwhelmed and excited. You can be stressed out and excited. You also don't have to be excited at all. You can just say, hey, I really don't want to go to this place. This sucks. And just sit in that for a little bit. And hopefully, eventually, you'll make the most of it. Somebody told me before my husband even was officially in the military this most recent time, people will ask you like, oh, what's the best base? And really, they're all the best base and they're all the worst base. It really is what you make of it. And I thought that was so dumb and so cheesy, but 3 years in, so far, that's been true for me 100%. So it's really about just embracing the chaos. And I will say that goes for online business and motherhood and military spouse life. And when you're doing all three of those at the same time, it is exponentially true. I think what has helped me a lot is, and I learned this from my business coach, Erin, several years ago when I first started my business, is just really knowing, like a deep, deep knowing that everything is going to be fine. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but kind of a practice that you can do to help yourself internalize this is look for evidence in the past where things seemed harder, things seemed like they didn't work out, or you were like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, and it did work out. And just remind yourself of those. There have been so many times in my life where I have been like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, this is not going to work out. Moving from Washington to Idaho the day after I graduated college, leaving my 9 to 5 to start my business full time, my husband joining the military, having kids. So many times have I been like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope that everything turns out fine. And it has. And so now I know that like I've got this. I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be hard, but it's all going to work out. Letting go of some of the perfectionism too. For me, that really manifests in like the day after we get to whatever our new place is. I want to have the house like unpacked and everything perfectly in its place and pictures on the walls and everyone's bedrooms put together and all the things. And that is not possible. So I think the more you do it, the more you kind of just get okay with it's just a process. And in 3 months, you're going to look back and be like, oh, hey, everything's in this place now. We're all good. It's fine. The chaos did not kill me this time. And a big part of that has also been, okay, what is like a have to do right now and what can wait? So for a really tangible example, have to do right now is get my kids' bed set up so they have a place to sleep the first night we're here. What can wait is unpacking all of their stuffed animals or hanging stuff on their walls or whatever. Like I care about all of that more than they do. So that's something that can wait until I have time and the mental capacity and etc. And finally, just remembering what you value, right? So for me, the reason why I started my business and the most important thing to me is that I get to spend time with my family. And if the stress and all of the to-dos and all the things are like taken away from me being present with my family, then that's really a red flag to me of like, hey, I need to like sit down and reevaluate. So to kind of round this out, having an online business as a military spouse who is moving all the time is the biggest blessing in the world. Life is crazy. Things get hectic and chaotic. You're a human. You're going to get overwhelmed. Give yourself some grace. Everything is going to be okay. And please, please, please do not lose sight of how lucky you are to have a business that you can move along with you. If we were in corporate 9-to-5s, our bosses probably would be like, yeah, okay, well, sorry, there's the door. And we're very, very, very fortunate that that's not the case for us. So if you're a fellow military spouse getting ready for a PCS or getting ready to join military life and wondering how the heck am I going to do this, connect with me on Instagram. I really, really, really love to chat about this stuff. And as a newer military spouse, I wish that I had had somebody to ask these questions to. So I'm happy to be that person for you. Thanks for tuning in to the Six Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.